This is an example of lighting that is not inspiring. One of the more crucial parts of running a recording studio is creating an environment that the people who are in this place basically don't want to leave. So it's got to be a combination of welcoming, inspiring, and comfortable, so you feel like you can actually create whatever it is that you're trying to create, but also like you just don't want to leave. So if we could just book 2 or 3 more days, that would be great. Now, there's several things that contribute to creating this experience, and one of them is not what you think it is. It's lighting. Lighting is so often overlooked, and it makes such a difference both to you as the de facto occupant of the studio, as well as to the people who are paying to be there. And because it's one of the things that contributes to the overall environment of the studio, it's one of the things that actually sets your studio apart from other studios. All right, so in this video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually turn the camera around in this studio and show you all of the different things that I use in my studio to accomplish the lighting that we have going on in here, and you can implement this stuff into your studio setup. Oh man, I wanted to do this, like this. Damn it, it's supposed to be smooth. Like this. Okay, so to demonstrate this for you, we'll use this house that I have my studio in here in Nashville, because this is a multi-purpose studio. We're both producing records here, but we also want things to be set up to be able to easily create and film videos. Okay, so let's talk about what we want, because you can't get what you want unless you know exactly what you want. So I'll reiterate sort of what I mentioned in the beginning, which is I want this studio to be inspiring, right? But I also want comfortable lighting to just be in and work. I also want to be able to see the equipment that I'm using in the studio and have the ability to capture whatever it is, whether it's a performance of an artist or a musician on video without having to like have friction. You know, that's the word of the day, friction. I want it to be easy to be able to be making a record and just grab a camera or grab a phone, film it, be able to see everything and have it look good. So let's talk about the word inspiring when it comes to lighting, and what exactly does that mean? We'll start with uninspiring. This is an example of lighting that is not inspiring. This is another example of uninspiring lighting. Let's try to understand what's happening here, because this might be happening in your studio. Number one, the overhead lighting is a vibe kill. It's very bright, it's off-putting, it's direct, right? It's literally directly at you. And often these overhead lights are higher temperature lights, which the temperature scale of lighting is like 2700 to usually 5500 on lighting. And that just means it's either more orange and warmer or very blue and bright. I think like an office or a dentist's office or something like that. It just sucks. So let's get out of here and go through some of the different types of lighting that actually are inspiring. And I'll show you what I use in my studio. So we'll start with the unpleasant, uninspiring lighting here in this room. This is, again, a house. So this room is a bedroom. This is a ceiling fan light. It's not great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of turn on the different types of lighting one at a time, so you can see the difference and how it changes the whole feel of this room. Okay, so we're gonna start with an easy one. The first type of lighting is the cheapest kind, and it is lamps. Lamps and accent lighting are going to make little touches around the room really nice, almost like a living space. Like you want basically spots of interesting light that bring awareness to certain parts of the room and also make things easier to see. So in this room, I have a couple of these or 3 or 4 of these different types of lamps in here. And these are all very cheap lamps. I did a video on stuff for the studio under 50 bucks. I'll try to link that down below if I can. But all of these lamps were like under 50 bucks. Some of these lamps, you actually can get 2 of them for under 50 bucks. So go check that video out if you're interested. The idea is to just give a little bit of spark to the room. So the next types of lights that I want to show you are indirect lights. So these are lights that are making the room brighter, but they're not pointed at your face. So these lamps in some ways are direct lights because there's not like a lamp shade, and the actual light is, you know, directly visible. So we're gonna move on to indirect lighting. I'm gonna start with these lights back here. Now watch what happens when I turn these on. I'm using these LED tube lights. These are made by a company called Nanlite, and they are big, long LED tubes. I have one back behind this amp as well. This one's kind of cheated. It's been on this whole time, but this is what it looks like. It's just this tube light, and you can change the temperature so you can go more blue or warmer. And then it also has RGB, so you can do full RGB lighting. Like back there is set to more of an orange tone. And the idea back there is to add a little bit of pop behind the speakers, because generally in studios, behind the desk is a nightmare. It's a dark, deep, terrifying zone. So the next lights are in the same category. They're indirect lights, but these are ones that I get questions on all the time, / desk lights. Now these are indirect because, again, the light is not pointed at anyone's face. These are LED panel lights. So they're technically a type of video light that I have mounted above my desk, pointed down at the desk. So I get a little bit of accent lighting on my speakers, which again makes the room feel really comfortable. You could see the beautiful speakers, but also lights up my desk so I can see the gear and the equipment that I'm going to use without like an unflattering light in the room. Here's another one that I use. This is a desktop light. It is comfortable sometimes when you're working late at night and you want just like some little soft lighting on the desk. And then the next category of lights, this is actually kind of a mix between indirect and direct lighting. And it's just more of these LED panels. But what's cool about these is these are all up on the ceiling. So if you look up here above the amps, you can see I have this LED panel actually mounted to the trim up there. And so I just basically did this in 3 different spots up above the room, and I used these Triad Orbit IOC clamps to clamp them up there out of the way. So again, in a home studio, house studio, and any studio, anything that's on the floor takes up space. So watch what happens. I'll show you this area over here. I'm gonna turn on, I have all these lights on one plug so I can plug it in. I'm gonna turn off the overhead light. So this is what, you can already see there's way more of a vibe in this room. But once I turn on the ceiling lights, so these lights are in some ways pointed away from whoever's in the room at the equipment, sort of little spotlights. So these are the different components of types of lights that I like to use in here. This last one is for video light. This is called a key light. I actually put it up on a Triad Orbit stand that's on wheels, so we can kind of move around depending on what we're trying to do in the studio. So one thing I wanted to mention, this took me a long time to learn, and it mostly has to do with making videos, but it also translates perfectly to having a really interesting looking space. And that's whatever lighting you're using, you want to have some contrast. And I'm not I'll just disclaimer, I'm not an expert video professional. You know, I'm sort of a hack pretensioneer. But what I really like is contrasting both colors and tones, right? So I have this dark, matte, very navy blue wall, right? And it contrasts with this lighter panel here. I have a very warm or yellow lighting from lamps, but then I have the white light behind the amps, accenting behind that. And over here, we have the actual blue light. And at the front of the desk, we have the orange tube light. So everything is complementing sort of warm and cold, which makes for a very interesting and comfortable space to be in. It feels balanced, if you will. If you have everything as one color, it's not inspiring. It's actually, it's very stressful, I think, if everything in the room is one color. Unless you're just trying to get down on some like creepy music video where just everything's red or something like that. But for a place that you want people to be comfortable in, having a balance of different colors is gonna help you accomplish that goal of having a comfortable space for people to work in. Okay, so now let me show you specifics, because I know these are gonna be the questions in the comments. So we'll just start with this because it's right next to me. This stand, I've talked about these stands before. These are actually like microphone stands from Triad Orbit. You can get these on Sweetwater. This is like one of the more like durable stands you can get, and it's on casters. That's like my favorite part of this stand system. Every part of the Triad Orbit family is modular. So like I have a light on here, not a microphone, right? But I could take that off and I could put a microphone on there. And then in addition to the stands, you can put them on casters so that you can roll it around easily throughout the studio. You can also buy the clamps, which I have around the ceiling, and you can clamp stuff onto the stand, and you can have like 10 mics coming off of one stand. Or you could have a video light and a boom mic and a camera mount. You can have basically whatever you can dream of on one stand on wheels. So for those who are curious, this is the T3 stand, which basically is just a straight stand that goes, you know, this tall, pretty tall, 6 feet tall. And then I got the casters for it as well. The clamps up top are IOC clamps and IOGC. The difference is the IOC are smaller clamps and the IOGC clamps are much bigger, so you can clamp them onto much bigger things and they hold a lot more weight. So that's what we have on the lights up above. And I get to demonstrate the usefulness of this stuff as we're doing it. Okay, so I think I've gotten more questions about this situation here than any other question ever in the comment section. As I said, this is like a LED panel. This particular light is from the company Aperture. The line is Amarin and the model is P60X, which means you have warm lighting and cool lighting. You can see when you change the temperature, this is the blue light, and this is the warm 2700 degree light. I usually keep it somewhere in the middle above my desk. And you also have, you know, dimmer, so you can get very, very, very bright. I keep it nice and dim because it's just accent. Now, this thing that it's on is sort of an accident. First off, it's mounted to my speaker stands, which are Sound Anchor 80J2s. And this clamp is some generic Amazon creator desk mount stand. So what it was designed for was to clamp to your desk and hold like your, you know, influencer camera light setup on your desk, right? So what I did is I clamped it to my speaker stand and I boomed it up really high, and then I just you could like pull it out in this like weird arrangement, and I just placed it over my desk here to where it felt good, and then I mounted my light right to the adapter on here. This is a video light adapter. So it just kind of worked out. This was not the design of this or the purpose of this, but if I can find it, I'll put a link to whatever this is. The name isn't even like a real word, Ulanzi. So this key light that's on here is the newest one. I got this from Sweetwater. This is actually awesome because it's very small. Usually these key lights are insanely huge. And it's a real pain in the butt because, you know, storing them and moving them is extremely inconvenient. They don't really fit through doorways well. They don't break down easily. But this one is great. This is probably I don't know, 20 some odd inches. So it's pretty compact, but it does the thing that you need it to do, and it's easy to move. This is also made by Nanlite. This light is the Nanlite FC60B. So this is bicolor again, so you can get that yellow or blue light temperature on it. Yeah, I just popped it on the stand, and this is sort of our go-to now. Whenever we're jumping between rooms and filming different things, this is gonna be the easiest way and the fastest way to get good lighting conveniently. The big one back here, which is off right now, is the Amarin 200D S with their Light Dome SE. And this one is very big. It's very good, but it's big and it's inconvenient, so I just leave it back there. And it's high enough and kind of back enough to not really mess with the listening position too much here in the studio. Now let's check out the other two rooms in the studio here. Okay, so both of these rooms are designed to have very different emotions or feelings when you're in them. This is also has the blue walls, but the lighting is very warm in here. There is another tube light down here that sometimes I keep on, which is blue and complements our warm tones. So you have warm overhead light fixture, lamp, lamp, and lamp. As you can see here, this basically goes from indirect to slightly direct to totally direct, as well as this. This is pretty bright. And these are not LEDs, these are actually real incandescent bulbs, so they get very bright. And this just creates its own special feeling in this room. So when drummers or musicians are in here, it just feels like, you know, its own emotion. And the room next door gives you a different feeling. All right, now this room has some stuff happening in it right now. But this has its own unique feeling to it, just like the drum room does. Also, the other thing I want to mention is I just changed this light up on the ceiling. This is like some cheap light from, oh, by the way, all this stuff is pretty cheap. Some of the video lights can get less cheap, but as far as like actual lamps and stuff, I mean, it's all real cheap stuff. This is a cool overhead light because they're basically little mini spotlights. So none of it is pointed at me or my face. All of these lights up here are pointed at the wall. So the room feels really well lit and it's comfortable, but none of it is like off-putting or uncomfortable for me as the musician who's in here performing. And then the lamp just adds a nice little touch. And this one actually changes colors, so you can see it get more blue as I click through, and now it'll go back to warm. And then this, of course, is work in progress, podcast set / artist lounge hang. And here, this can sort of be a lot of different things in here, but again, the goal is to have somewhere to just hang out that's a little bit more comfortable and normal. All right, so let me know if you have any questions. The lighting thing you can go overboard with, just like audio and studio equipment, anything like that. But it can also really help bring to life the room that you're in. It can make it feel more inspiring, and that's one of my favorite things about going into everyone else's studios, seeing how they have designed their room and what's exciting and inspiring to them. I'll put links to everything that I can find for these lights. There's a wide variety of stuff here, and those will take you to Sweetwater, who are sponsoring this video. Links down in the description. Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. See ya.